I didn't feel like I did the best that I could have done. I wish I had the mindset I do now as an adult when I was a kid. I don't know, I guess just after that competition I just needed a bit of a break from gymnastics. My body was falling apart, and then having something to work towards again, I think was the fun part.
Hi guys, welcome to another video. If you're new, my name is Joanna Wilson. Today I'm joined by the beautiful Samantha Golding. And we're going to be discussing a really interesting topic, which is doing your childhood sport as an adult. But before we get into any of it, do you want to just tell people who you are?
Oh, you always do this to me and I'm like, hello, I'm Sammy. I am one of Joanna's bestest friends. I lived here with her for a year and a bit. I moved home back to Kent in January because I started doing gymnastics again, training for the Adult British Championships. And I run my own online fitness business.
Nice!
Is that okay?
That is perfect. So obviously the sport that we're going to talk about today is gymnastics, but I think hopefully what we talk about will be transferable to anybody who sort of did a sport as a child and is either got back into it or is thinking to get back into it as an adult. What was your journey within the sport of gymnastics when you were younger?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just genuinely was obsessed with gymnastics for as long as I can remember. I'm sure my mum would agree. Like, I was rolling around. I was always kind of that kid that would jump off things, and that was kind of what I wanted to do. So I started the sport from right as a baby. Like, my mum did it when she was younger, so she always probably wanted me to get into it anyway. Started in like the development squads. I think quite early on it was obvious that I had some kind of talent in gymnastics. So then spent hours and hours of my childhood in a gym, but I wanted to be there. It was like finish school, straight to the gym, training. I think the most I ever trained when I was a kid was about 24 hours a week, which is a lot. Probably didn't need to do that much, but I wanted to be there that much, so it was fine. And then, started competing from when I was like 6, I think. I just loved it. I wasn't necessarily the most talented there, but I think because I enjoyed it so much, and even when I wasn't at gym, I had a beam at home, I had a bar. My grandpa built me this beam that took up the whole living room. So it just became my life, and I loved it.
In the last couple of years particularly, there's been quite some negative media about gymnastics. Did you experience any of that, or was that part of your experience in the sport whatsoever?
I mean, not really. I was really lucky. Like, my gymnastics club was quite small. Our coaches just wanted us to do the best that we could do, which I know I'm very lucky at. I mean, times have changed a lot. Back then it was a lot different. Coaching was very regimented, which I think I just kind of didn't really take a lot of notice of, to be honest. Because I liked the sport so much, it didn't affect me, but there was definitely a lot of... We used to get weighed at gym. For me, I've always been a bit like a musclier, heavier gymnast. I was never one of the smaller ones. I remember a couple of comments about weight when I was younger, but nothing that's ever really affected me too much, which is lucky. And I think that's the reason why I loved it for as long as I did.
Yeah. When did you stop doing gymnastics?
When I got to about 14 years old, I started to grow a little bit. My friends started to go out. Near me, there's a shopping centre called Blue Water, and everyone used to go to Blue Water on a Saturday afternoon. But I did gymnastics training from 9 till 5 on a Saturday. So I got to 15, I think I just turned 15, and did my last competition, and then I was like, no, do you know what? I want to go out with my friends. I don't want to do gymnastics anymore. So yeah, I gave up summer of my 15th birthday and went to Blue Water for that first time. It was so awful. I was like, why is everyone hyping up about this? But I guess it's that fear of like missing out. Yeah. Because you sacrifice so much.
Totally at that age, like as well.
Everyone else, had done brownies as a kid. There was always something that I didn't do because I did gymnastics, which at the time was fine, and that's...
Yeah, I guess when you are younger, we both work in gymnastics clubs now. It's like a kid comes to gymnastics on a Tuesday, brownies on a Wednesday, swimming on a Thursday. When you excel in a sport, or when you do really well in a sport, coupled with when you really enjoy a sport, you do more of that sport, which means that you do less of anything else.
100%. And it's like, it's not just me who had to sacrifice things, obviously my family. I was a kid, so my mum and my dad had to get me to and from gymnastics. I mean, my mum now is head of GFA at my gymnastics club because she used to take me there so much that she started volunteering on reception, started volunteer coaching. She's like, well, I'm here, so I may as well. And now she's ended up getting involved even more in the sport. And she sacrificed a lot as well for me to do that.
So do you regret finishing when you were 15?
It's so hard. It's so hard because Obviously, I've got back into the sport as I'm older.
Yeah.
Past 15, it does get tough, and that's where a lot of kids leave the sport, I think, around that age, because puberty is hitting, especially for females. It's a really tough time. Your body shape changes so much. Your hormones and emotions are all over. Like, I remember I just used to get so annoyed at myself when I just couldn't do something. I didn't understand why. I had a male coach as well, which was great, but I don't think he understood the hormone side of it. Leaving at that time was the right thing for me. If I'd carried on for longer, what could have happened? But I just think my mindset had gone and there was no point. I wish I had the mindset I do now as an adult when I was a kid, because I did really love it, but when I was like probably secondary school, it did just become really difficult.
Yeah. I've sat and watched videos of you compete, and I feel like there is a transition between those first competitions and then by the time you got older, you were just like...
Yeah, I just hated it. I really didn't enjoy competing anymore. I always kind of competed quite well, but then as I got older and I started to realise how much it meant to me to compete, I then put more pressure on myself, and then I was worse, and then I just hated competitions.
Yeah.
And then when you're that age, like, you have to compete. So yeah, to answer your question, I don't regret quitting then, because I think it was the right thing to do. And I don't think I would have got back into it if I had stayed much longer, because I think I would have just like completely fallen out. And the thing is, I quit when I was 15, but I think I didn't do gymnastics for about 5 months. And then it was the year I was turning 16, I was allowed to go to adult gym. It was only 2 times a week, but I loved it because it was like I could do what I wanted to do. I just didn't train any flexibility skills and just tumbled and did all like the things that I enjoyed. And like kind of kept me involved in the sport, but in a bit of a nicer way, shall we say.
So what was that transition then from childhood, although you're not really a child at 15, 16,
but
to adult?
I actually did diving, competitive diving, after gymnastics, which was more just to kind of keep me doing a sport. It was less pressure. It was more for fun. Like, I think I went twice a week. But again, I started to get good at it, and then it was like, oh, should I go into a squad? Should I? So then I did train in gymnastics for a bit, and then I was 18 and I was about to go to uni. I was either going to go to Gloucester Uni or Plymouth Uni, and Plymouth is where Tom Daly used to dive. Diving. So they've got like a massive diving facility. But then I went and saw Gloucester Uni, and I just loved that uni. And diving, I'd started doing this like squad training stuff, and again it was like, I don't think I'm ready
bringing
to...
back flashbacks of
it's just such a commitment. Like, it's not just the training either. It's like driving there and back, all the conditioning, all that other stuff that you have to do. Like, no, do you know what? I just want to go to uni and have fun. So I didn't go to Plymouth.
I think when a sport has been such a big part of your life for so long, I kind of understand filling the void with another sport.
Yeah.
But then when you get in that other sport, when you get into territory that's like reminding you of the reasons that you left the previous sport, it's like, oh God, here we go again. I clearly love sport. I clearly want to move my body.
Yeah.
But I just want to have fun.
Because when I started diving, it was never, I want to compete.
Yeah.
No. One of my friends from gymnastics went diving, and she was like, you should come and try it. And I tried it and I loved it.
Did you just springboard diving?
Yeah, springboard, so 1 metre and 3 metre, and then they had like a 5 metre platform.
Right.
But as soon as I got up there, it was a bit scary, so stuck with the lower stuff. I wanted to do it for fun, but then because I started getting good at it, I was like, oh, maybe I could compete in this. But didn't do that. So went to uni, and then I was at uni for 2 years, didn't do any gymnastics at all. And then I worked at home for a year, and I heard of the Adult British. Someone who was at my gymnastics club was like, oh, we're going to do the Adult British. And I was like, all right, I could do a competition again now. Like, I'm home for a year, and I was working in London, so it kind of gave me that something to look forward to when I got home. So that was like me getting back into the sport.
Yeah. Let's just rewind a little bit. That 2-year period that you didn't do any gymnastics.
Yeah.
How was that?
Awful. Well, I mean, it's another one of my hindsight is when I went to uni, I should have joined a team or like a sport, but I didn't do anything. I didn't go to the gym. I don't know if it was the people that I was around. None of them were into fitness or anything. I needed that 2 years of just partying and what everyone does when they go to uni.
Oh, totally. And like, actually, similarly saying like in hindsight you would have joined a team and this, that and the other, like you also might not have been ready for that.
Yeah.
And you probably the reason you got back into the sport was because you genuinely wanted to. When you get to a point when you're 13, 14, 15, 16, you have to go to gymnastics. You want to go to gymnastics. But if you ask Ash or Niall or any, it becomes not a choice, it just becomes a routine.
100%.
But I feel like that return to the sport after uni for you was because you genuinely wanted to start doing gymnastics again.
100%. 100%.
Just totally different.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably quite common in any adults that redo their sport because you don't have to do anything when you're an adult. You can do whatever you want.
Exactly. And I think your muscle memory comes back as well. So like your body kind of remembers to do some of the stuff. You're like, okay, like this is fun. This is what I love doing and this is why I do it. And I remember that going back to gymnastics because there was a long period, that second year of uni, I didn't really come home a lot. So I didn't train a lot. And then I remember coming home for the summer and going to adult gymnastics and doing some stuff that I'd not done in ages. And I was like, oh my God, my body still remembers how to do this. This is cool. And then having something to work towards again, I think was the fun part.
So you're competing in the adult British?
Yeah. I actually broke a bone in my hand a week before the competition, so I never got to do bars, but I did the rest of it, which was fine. But that kind of, I think because the competition, I couldn't do it properly. It was like, I just got that addiction back to the sport again.
Yeah.
Like just that feeling of like, once you learn something, you're like, oh, well, then I can learn this, or then I can do this.
And even in the last, I mean, we'll get onto that, but even in the last year, you progressed so much in the sport and learned so many new skills.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing to vouch for, is like no matter how late you start a sport or come back to a sport, you still can learn and do new things and push yourself and challenge yourself.
And it's funny because as an adult, obviously you're so much more aware of the dangers and like the fear factor is there because you're like, oh God, you also understand your body so much more.
So did you go back to uni for another year?
Yeah, so after that year working in London and did the adult British, I went back to uni for a year. I didn't really stay at uni very much that year. I was there as little as I could and just kept coming home and kept doing gymnastics.
Right.
I actually coached at a gym in Cheltenham as well. But yeah, so then since doing that adult British, I've pretty much been involved in gymnastics again. I worked in Camp America and taught gymnastics there after my final year at uni. That was my first back into coaching and I just remembered why I love the sport so much.
Yeah. Cool. All right, talk to me about this year then.
This year.
2023.
So when was it?
Nearly 10 years since your first adult British, by the way. That's just ridiculous.
That's funny, isn't it? Because again, the adult British, I'd always wanted to do it again, but because I went to work in America every summer, I couldn't do it because it was when I was always away for the comp, so that's why I'd not done it since. And I'd planned to do it in 2020, and then obviously COVID and everything happened, so I couldn't do it. But then we were really lucky. We had, where I live at home, we built this whole new gym. Kind of made me feel like a kid in a candy shop again when I got back there, and I was like, no, do you know what? I am going to do this British. So last year, I think we set goals, didn't we? And I was like, I'm going to win the adult British. But then last year I was injured, so we couldn't do it. So this year, I trained probably 5 times a week again.
Yeah, you smashed it.
And I loved it. I'm training with my coach. My coach is awesome. I wish I'd had a coach like him when I was younger. He made me feel so confident. Like, he was like, you can do anything you want. And I've learned so many new skills in the first 6 months of this year that I never even did as a kid.
Yeah. Which
is just like, I'm 28 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning new gymnastic skills, which is just...
That's amazing.
It's crazy. And like you literally, whatever sport it is, you 100% can grow and get better at it no matter how old you start at. The competition was in August, which I'm sure...
And then she won. Which she set out today. Because she's amazing.
Did it.
She's British champion. What's the future hold for gymnastics and Samantha Golden?
Well, it's really weird because it was quite a big come down, I guess, after the comp. It was kind of like I didn't feel like I did the best that I could have done. I don't know, I guess just after that competition I just needed a bit of a break from gymnastics. My body was falling apart. Mm-hmm. So I've not really done much since. It's definitely not the end of gymnastics for me at all. I don't compete very well, so I think competitive wise it might be the end of my... What a way to go out as well, right?
I feel like she'll probably compete again.
But definitely have a break from competing for a bit and just go back to throwing myself around and having fun with it. I think I need that again. It's funny because it's like a cycle. I just compete and then I'm like, oh, okay, no.
And then it's like, oh, I want to compete.
And then I can start like getting good at stuff and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I can dabble in it.
What advice would you give somebody who is thinking about getting back into their childhood sport?
I guess just like take your time with it because you don't want to, especially if you quit because it was taking over your life or Like, the competitiveness was too much. Like, just remember, as an adult, you're in control. You're doing it because you want to do it, not because anyone's telling you to do it. And it's enjoyment. You've got to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, if you start not enjoying it again, then find a new sport, because any sport is a good sport. So
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you. I
That was
love that
fun.
video and that story. I think
Yeah.
people are going to find that really interesting.
I
as
hope
well,
so. It kind of goes off on tangents all the time,
No, it was
but
perfect.
hopefully you got something out of it anyway.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Remember to go and follow Sammy. She is launching a fitness advent calendar
I am.
in December, so go check that out. But yeah, thank you guys as ever on this third channel. I know it's the smallest of the three, but I feel like we've got some hardcore watchers that actually really enjoy these chat videos.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. We'll see you in the next one. Keep smashing it. Remember, anything is possible. You just
Bye.